The Influencer's Edge is brought to you by the Rapid Sales Accelerator. If you're ready to skyrocket your sales by 30% or more in just 90 days, then you need to claim your free training right now. You'll learn 4 words that will compel your prospects to trust you like they were children within the first 3 to 5 minutes of any conversation across any platform and any medium. You'll learn how to give your prospects objection amnesia, to crush objections like, I need to talk to my spouse, or I need more time to think it over, or it's too expensive. If you'd like to claim your free training now, go to www.paulrossbook.com. Do it before your competition does it now. Welcome to the Influencer's Edge. This is the place where you come to get the latest breakthroughs, cutting-edge insights, tools, and techniques to leapfrog over the pack in sales, persuasion, and influence. Be sure you visit our website at www.theinfluencersedge.com. And while you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now sit back, tune in, and enjoy today's episode. All right, welcome back to the Influencer's Edge. As you know, we often like to talk about behavioral science and influence and how all these things can be used as tools to get you where you go, whether that means improving your own lives, the lives of others, selling influence persuasion. So I think our guest today, Maurice Webster, fits in very well. First of all, Maurice, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's really good to reconnect again. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I know you're speaking with us today from a very remote location. You're in Johannesburg. So you get to talk
in Johannesburg, in the bottom of the world.
And well, depends on perspective. They're on the top, looking down on wherever we are as happen to be American. All right, so your bio was quite simple. You submitted quite a short one, so we'll unpack it. Behavioral psychology author. What's the name of your book?
So I've written 5 books. I'll take you through my publishing journey. Sure. In 2006, I started thinking about the link between psychology and image, and I published this book, which was basically, I built my career off newspaper columns. So when people were reading newspapers, I took those columns and I published my first book in 2006. It was called Thinking About the Brand You. And then 3 years later, I was thinking about how do you reinvent yourself in the minds, firstly in your own mind and then the minds of others. Ooh. So I wrote this book called Personovation. And personovation is a word that I've coined. So if you see that word anywhere, Paul, somebody stole it from me. I have Google marked it. Yeah, that book is essentially, the question I was answering in that book is, what do you do when you outgrow what you were known for?
Whoa. What a question. What do you do when you outgrow what you're known for? Boy, I've taken on that one the last few years. That's brilliant. I love that. We can do a whole show based on that alone.
Yeah, we can. I mean, it's funny because that book, it's been my most successful book, Personovation. And it's funny, I got the golden nugget from that book from a conversation with Oprah. I got a chance to meet Oprah in South Africa with about 7 other people. And I knew that she had gone through a pivot similarly. And we were just chatting randomly. And I said, Oprah, you don't know it, but one day you're going to write a foreword in one of my books. And she's like, you don't know it, but I don't write forewords. And then she walked away. And then she thought about it and she came back to me. And she says, you know what? A lot of people are going through this. And she started rattling off names left and right. She was like, you know what? This person is going through that as well. This person is going through that as well. Here's some tips. Here's some strategy how you should think about this book. And she was just dropping knowledge on me about structuring the book. And I opened that book speaking about purpose and how sometimes when you get caught up in purpose, you struggle to reinvent and to evolve yourself because you feel like the purpose is concrete, that it doesn't evolve. And so anyway, that book was was a key book in my career. Then after that, I was looking at questions around authenticity. In my third book, in my fourth book, I coined a concept called PBQ, much like EQ or IQ. PBQ is personal brand intelligence. And I
Oh,
created a model.
pause.
Yeah.
Timothy, we could do a show on each one of these things. It's amazing. Keep going. Keep
Yeah.
going.
Yeah. And then I did a case study. I wrote, my fifth book was about influence, and I was writing about a young woman who is in a male dominated industry, the fuel industry, and looking at how she navigates, being on boards with all men, et cetera, et cetera. So that's been my publishing journey. And my next body of work is going to be looking at applying behavioral psychology and neuroscience to out group members. So if you are an older person and you're trying to work with a team of young people, if you're a woman trying to work with men, or if you're an out group member, you're trying to work in Japan and you're from America, how do you hack people's unconscious mind to get connection? So that's my next book coming up, and I'm really really excited about it.
Is it premature and spilling the tea too early to talk about some of the concepts in that, or do you want to keep it
No,
under?
no, 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 no. I'm
Okay.
no.
So this
Yeah,
is huge. This is gold. Can you unpack concepts of this?
Yeah, I can. I mean, for much of my life, I've been an out group member. The theory around in group and out groups is, it's a very simple, practical idea that, if you love sport and let's say, for example, you're a New York Yankees fan, and then you go to Boston, you're the only one wearing a New York jersey. You're an out group member. If you are a Christian and you find yourself in Saudi Arabia, you're an out group member.
Yeah.
And there is a fundamental assumption that the people in the in group should be interested in you as an out group member. And all the research shows that the brain is far more interested in group connections for the purposes of safety, for the purposes of, feeling as though somebody's going to get my back, Paul. So I'll give you an example. Our evolutionary brains are driven fundamentally by the idea of extending and protecting our bloodlines. And so one of the biggest fears almost any man has is coming home and finding their wife with someone else. And it's not so much about her betraying your social contract. The instinct at a genetic level is the thought that you would be raising someone else's bloodline. And so
Powerful.
At our deepest core, we're not wired to invest in another's bloodline. And so this idea of inclusion is not very natural. It's not natural to want to spend time with someone who has to translate their language to you because something gets lost in translation. And so this next book really looks at almost demystifying all this conversation about inclusion, diversity, because we just assume it's easy. It's very, very hard. And you see that all over the world right now. You look at the Palestinian conflict, you got people on one or the other side, then they go, I'm part of that in group. They don't say the word in group or out group, but that's what's happening. It's like, I'm championing this group because I identify with this group. I feel what they feel, etc. So this book goes, if you want to connect with another group, here are some strategies you can use to hack into their minds and how you can accelerate connection, how you can accelerate bonding, how you can accelerate entry into that group. And not only have I been able to do that living around the world, I've lived in India, South Africa. I think I've worked on just about every continent. And whether I was doing work in Japan and Tokyo, and I'm trying to connect with the executive team at Panasonic, or whether I was in Romania trying to connect with a young leadership team, or wherever, I'm usually an outgroup member. And so the world is now, because we've become so diverse, almost everybody on some level is an outgroup member. And so I want to offer people tools.
Whoa. This is mind blowing. This is so true. I've never even thought of it, but that's so true.
Yeah. I mean, just about any environment you're going to find yourself in this day and age, if you're a Mexican coming over the border, if you find yourself going to trying to move to Toronto, if you are, somebody from the South moving to the North and vice versa, you're going to be an outgroup member on some level. And I think that the assumption is, and this is a horrible assumption that causes so much misery, that people are just going to be interested in you. Nobody gives a damn about your background. People are concerned about their background and how they
Correct.
survive. People are concerned at the end of the day. Let me tell you another thing. I've been on and on about Paul. We could do a series on this actually.
Let's.
The if I come to your house, do you live alone? Do you have family members live with you?
I have two furry feline buddies of mine who live with me.
So your feline buddies that live with you have access to certain parts of your house that I don't.
That's
If
correct.
you could invite me over, you could invite me over and be as nice and as hospitable as you are. But there are certain parts of the house your feline buddies will have access to that I won't. They have privilege that I don't have.
They sure do. My girls can go anywhere they want.
Yeah. They have a privilege that I don't have. And every human being in their in-group is trying to find privilege in their in-group. And there is nothing more beautiful when you rally around someone that has similar beliefs and values. And so who am I to come along and say, screw that, you need to be diverse? Like, it is a very, very misunderstood concept in our minds.
It's going against evolution in a sense. It's going against the way we're wired.
It is. And we are lazy and pathetic in the way we talk about it. And moreover, let me go a step further, Paul. That it does a fundamental disservice to the power of in-group dynamics to assume diversity is by default going to be an advantage. You have to come up with a compelling reason for me to even be interested in diversity when I know the benefits of in-group engagement. And so do not talk to me about diversity unless you have a compelling case. And there are reasons and there are compelling cases, but we don't explore them at the level we should. We assume by default.
Help me now. My question is, help all of us with one or two insights on how to make that case. But before you do, what pops into mind, the hit I get, is there's some unique individuals in human history who have been able to go to, who not only have spoken powerfully to their in-group, but have so moved people who are not in their in-group that those people, the outsiders, have taken on those ideas and become a member of their in-group. They're so naturally charismatic and so powerful and so believe in what they're doing. I'm thinking, as an example, Martin Luther King. He had such a powerful message that he actually converted people who did not believe his way into seeing the justice and the truth of what he was talking about. So is personal charisma any part of these strategies, or you don't have to have any kind of charm or charisma?
Well, the thing you need at a foundational level is find the thing that we all have in common. What was the thing that Martin Luther King leveraged to bring people together? It was the Constitution. It was the fundamental idea that we have a shared value in our laws. I mean, he was just reminding America of what it had written about people. That's all he had done. It was like, these are the laws that we say we have. And so he was able to just simply call out the fundamental, almost like hypocrisy of America to rally people. And then if you have on top of that, it's funny because I have a friend of mine who has a godfather named Andrew Young. Andrew Young helped co-write the I Have a Dream speech. So Andrew Young is the first Black mayor of Atlanta. He's the first Black ambassador to the United Nations. He's an icon. He was right next to Martin Luther King, when he got shot, when he wrote, when he gave that famous speech. He's an icon. Anybody Google Andrew Young, go through Atlanta.
Wasn't he a mayor? Wasn't he a mayor?
Of Atlanta. Of Atlanta. Yeah. So Dr. Andrew Young talks about how towards the end of that speech, he abandoned the text that they had spent all night writing. And he went back to what he knew would work. So the artilleration and repeating of I Have a Dream is something that he had already preached in a church, and he saw that it worked. So he removed that text. And what he knows, because he was highly educated. People don't often realize just how educated Dr. Martin Luther King was. He understood that every human has a dream for their bloodline. And that was the uniting force. I cannot think of a single person even if you don't have children yourself, people who are trying to raise a bloodline. And so that I Have a Dream was the rallying cry around in-group, out-group dynamics. And so if you're trying to, and I call this in my book, ruse effects. When you're trying to arouse someone or awaken someone, the root word of arouse is ruse. Ruse is to strategically awaken someone to a potential possibility. And so that is the core of what this work is about, is applying ruse effects to get people to think about
this. Please, this is so brilliant. I got to pause you. This is so brilliant because most people think of. Are you saying RUSC? Is that what the word you're spelling?
No, ROUSE.
ROUSC. Okay, because ruse is to deceive. But I was thinking, that can't be what you're talking about.
No. Yeah. So I mean, at the end of the day, if in psychology, if you're so buried in your in-group, and it often happens because people don't realize how diverse South Africa is. There's a huge Asian, Korean population in South Africa. There is a massive population of Indians, one of the largest community of Indians outside of India is in South Africa. And so, some people have stumbled on that insight because of Trevor Noah. Trevor Noah has become such a big deal around the world. He talks a lot about South Africa, but if I walk past a group of Koreans, they often literally don't see me. And part of it is my exterior, my aesthetic is so far from them that there is no assumption that I could be in their in-group or should be in their in-group. Now, if I want to become friends, like I have with a group of them, I need to create in-group effects and trigger their interest or arouse their interest. So if I'm interested in networking with a Korean in South Africa, most of them are either into a sport called paddle or basketball. I can leverage these sports if I can get attention or a space to trigger, like, oh, you're interesting. Oh, we may have something in common. And before you know it, we're at each other's house having dinner. But unless I awaken that in them, I'm going to remain on the out group. And too many people remain on the out group and they project their victim mindset. And this is one of the things that really, really pisses me off and frustrates me. That if I go and spend time in Mumbai, India, or in London, or if I'm from the East Coast in the States and I go spent time in Texas. Why should somebody give a damn about me? What like, how did we miss this in school at an early age? How do we miss explaining to people about basic behavioral evolutionary psychology, where people are interested in their own survival?
I can
And
give
the
you a
more,
reason. I can give you a
break it
reason.
down, break it down.
This is one thing I would break down is it's deliberately not taught because the whole idea of evolution and evolutionary psychology conflicts with being highly religious and taking things as being literally true. There could be an agenda there. It could be ignorance. It could also be no.
Yeah, but nowhere else in the world, Paul, are we more segregated than with religion. At the end of the day, Christians hang out with Christians, and Christians who are Baptists hang out with Baptists. So why didn't they explain that? Why didn't they say these are the reasons why we bond with people who have something in common? Have you ever seen a Southern Christian and a person from California try to have a conversation about religion?
I've managed, sir, with all due respect, with my seductive arts, I've managed to be with women of all sorts of backgrounds that have nothing to do with mine. There's some things in the background there. I mean no disrespect. But so what are some techniques to move if you are, let's say I'm thinking the example you gave of dealing with people who are Japanese in business. I would think you'd have to do your research to even know that there's certain kind of sports that they're into. So part of this has to involve a research process, yes?
Well, part of it just involves giving a damn about other people and their cultures. Like at the end of the day, the principle I start with is every culture has some level of genius. Because for a culture to evolve, there has to be principles. And here's the thing. There are people like you who are highly educated, who research this topic, where it's not that difficult. But I'm talking to the average human, even highly intelligent people often struggle with this. Because the instinct to go towards in group becomes stronger when society is highly complex. When society, there's a lot of uncertainty, when there's political uncertainty, we race to in groups.
Yes.
And so this is the challenge we're facing. The world is so disrupted right now. And I wrote a piece for Duke Business School about this, about hacking inclusion. And in that article, I talked about how algorithms are triggering us towards in groups. Check your LinkedIn following and see how diverse it is. It's not going to be very diverse because the platform doesn't want it to be diverse. The platforms operate, and some of this is because you've got the thought leaders at schools like Stanford who, in their behavioral science labs, like BJ Fogg and those guys, they teach people how to grab people's attention quickly through an effect they call, this is a one-liner that everybody needs to take away. It's called, you put hot triggers in the path of motivated people.
Ladies and gentlemen, he just dropped $1 billion in the path of motivating. I'm taking notes. It's bad hosting.
So Paul, this is what they taught. So in this lab in Stanford, this is where the designers of founders of Instagram came from. This is one of the most popular labs for tech leaders and entrepreneurs. BJ Fogg leads this lab, and he says at its core that if you really want to gain people's attention and engagement, so hot triggers, what is a hot trigger? If I'm in the front of somebody who's a leader and I need to get their attention, what is a hot trigger for them? If I am having a conversation with you and you've got two lovely felines running around the house and I ignore them, then I'm missing the triggers. Like at the end of the day, you've got to be genuinely interested in somebody's hot triggers. That's number one. Secondly, who is already motivated for these triggers? And if you understand that, then you have got the recipe to have someone glued to you.
Oh.
And if you're an out-group member, they lock onto you because you understand the fundamental basics of attention. And so, I want to explore this in the latest book, in the next book, because it's not so much I think it's groundbreaking, Paul.
Oh.
I just think that the opposite is being taught. That the opposite is that someone who is different from you. I mean, I just did a session in a U.S. Department of Commerce in Washington, D.C. about this. And one of the things that came out of it was that there was only one person that was on the call who had even 2% diversity in their following on their social media. Almost everyone could not believe when they searched their following how non-diverse it was. And the only reason why is because it's so comfortable. The algorithms have made it so comfortable. They've made the attention model that they've developed appear to be diverse. And let me tell you, I haven't told many people this. One of the greatest tragedies that I've seen over the last couple of years in terms of how algorithms choke perspective is what's happened with Jordan Peterson. Dr. Jordan Peterson is a brilliant man. I don't give a damn what people think about some of his thoughts about left, right. I don't care about that. But if you listen to his and read his work deeply, the man is brilliant. Forget about your ideologies. You cannot have a conversation with me about him if you only thing you're thinking about is some of his ideologies. I'm talking about his research and his work. I'm able to be able to, yes, he's wicked smart. But if you look at what's happened to him over the last couple of, I would say over the last year, he's got caught in an echo chamber online. So he is assuming because of he is in an echo chamber of anti-wokeness that what he's seeing is representative of what's happening in the world. What he is experiencing is an inflamed view of what's happening in the world. And he's ignoring all the good that's happening and all the progress. And so he's taken far more of his time on trying to deal with the inflammation than to deal with and build on all of the progress that he's made in the years before. And so I've seen it. And I interviewed on my podcast. By the way, this is my 10th year for my podcast, and I'm so excited to be celebrating 10 years in this conversation.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. I don't know if I've ever been on yours or not, but I would love to come on yours.
You have. You've been on mine. That's how your team reached out to me. So I'll say to you, I'll say this, and it was a while ago, so time flies, right? I say to you that, I interviewed two of his colleagues, and when I shared with them about what happens with how these algorithms choke perspective, they just paused because they started at Toronto with him, and they could not believe how the shift happened. And anyway, I will say to anyone listening, if you're a leader or whoever you are, try to hack your engagement online. Try to, whether it's LinkedIn, X, TikTok, wherever platforms you're on, try to make sure you get as much diverse input and that's how you go about hacking it. And on a simple level, let's say, for example, you're watching Netflix. We all watch these Showmax, Netflix, etc. If you're watching Netflix and you watch two Black comedians, all it's going to do is start showing you Black comedians. It's going to stop showing you white. It's going to stop showing you Indian.
Yeah.
So you got to guard yourself against that stuff. Otherwise, you find yourself with conviction over blind spots, and it's dangerous.
You know what occurs to me? I have to let you go, but please, I want you back. I want you back. I want you back, please. What occurs to me is in order to control people's thinking or narrow or limit people's thinking, we don't need 1984 and censorship, and we don't need even Brave New World, Aldous Huxley. We just need to stick them in their own little echo chamber individually and as groups, and we've got them.
You got them. And you got them to such an extent that they're easily manipulated.
This is brilliant. I beg you, come back again. And what is the name of the book where you talk about hacking in groups?
So that's an article I wrote in Duke. Duke Business School has a publication. You can just search Duke in my name and it'll come up. Duke and
Brilliant.
Timothy Maurice Webster.
Sir, we've done hundreds of episodes. I can honestly say this is one of the top 5. I've got to get you in a conversation with my friend Chase Hughes, because he goes about hacking through neuroscience, and there's sort of an overlap. You guys I'd love to have you both on the show at the same time.
Yeah,
Honestly,
let's do that. Let's make that happen, Paul. I love the professionalism of your team and how you guys have set your systems up, and I'm really wishing you the best. It's a seamless process. You got a professional podcast. We all do a lot of these, but you're doing it at the highest level. So congratulations.
Thank you. I want back on yours, and you've got to come back on mine. If people want to stay in the conversation with you, what is the best way to do it?
So LinkedIn, I'm really active on there. Timothy Maurice Webster. But if you're on Instagram, it's easy. Insta Timothy on Instagram. You can get access to my links, or my website is timothymaurice.com.
This is
awesome, guys.
I can drop F-bombs. This is fucking genius. And thank you for being on the show. It's fucking genius. I know you've got
I appreciate you.
You've graced us with genius and dropped so many thought nuggets. My favorite one is hot triggers and put hot triggers in front of highly motivated people. I'm going to talk to Chase about that one. Thank you, my friend.
Take care, Paul. Good luck out there.
Bye.
Peace. Cheers.
The Influencer's Edge is brought to you by the Rapid Sales Accelerator. If you're ready to skyrocket your sales by 30% or more in just 90 days, then you need to claim your free training right now. You'll learn 4 words that will compel your prospects to trust you like they were children within the first 3 to 5 minutes of any conversation across any platform in any medium. You'll learn how to give your prospects objection amnesia, to crush objections like, I need to talk to my spouse, or I need more time to think it over, or it's too expensive. If you'd like to claim your free training now, go to www.paulrossbook.com. Do it before your competition does it now. Thank you for tuning in to the Influencer's Edge, where you get the latest breakthroughs, cutting-edge insights, tools, and techniques so you can leapfrog over the pack in sales, influence, and persuasion. Remember to visit our website at www.theinfluencersedge.com to enjoy even more great episodes like this one. We look forward to seeing you again on the Influencer's Edge Show.